convince the public that security needs attention and it needs huge investments. So I was there at the summit in 2017, which was basically the start of the ramping up of our defense spending. And I'm happy that we agreed, also my parliament, with a large majority in favor of the 5%. But these are big steps, and I don't think we could have made them as quickly as we have now without the persistence of President Trump. So whatever people might have on commentaries, I think that he's doing our own security a favor by pushing us to invest more.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone, though, is completely on board with how we're getting to that 5%. I mean, let's think about Spain. This is not just a small, this is a large European economy saying, you know, that 5% is unreasonable and counterproductive even. That's the language that they used. So what's your take on that? And Anna?
Well, I think it underlines that this requires very tough decision making, and not only for Spain, for I think 32 NATO allied states, which will have to turn these decisions into practice. And as I said earlier, we're not even there yet. We're just taking the decision and deciding together that this is what's needed exactly to ramp up NATO's own defense plans. That's really why we're doing this. So this is going to be tough. I think it's important that countries find a way out, and so they did. So that's a good sign. We have a signal of unity if all goes well tomorrow at the NATO North Atlantic Council. But it just shows how painful these decisions are, and I think there's no way of making them any prettier than they are. I think it's important to underline the necessity of them. But this requires something from politicians and from citizens and voters. So.
Yeah. And does it also say something about, I mean, just pushback on the way these like the 5% has been kind of as an ultimatum presented to some countries? I mean, you use the phrase, you know, put a knife to the throat of Europe and said, yeah, you've got to do this. I mean, could that have been achieved, you know, in a more diplomatic way, do you think? Or was that the only option, realistically, given the lack of defence spending over the last...
You know, political leaders have to show leadership, make the necessary decisions on behalf of their societies. So in that regard, I think there is a broad agreement that we have to increase the defense spending. The number is not out of the blue. It's related, again, to real defensive capabilities that need to be built up in the next couple of years in order, again, to deter. And that works fine. This year, I think all of the NATO member states, that was said by General Secretary Rutte, are going to be at 2%. This is a huge achievement already. We've agreed on that in 2014. It took more than a decade for all of the countries to catch up to this. So it takes a while, but unfortunately, we are on borrowed time. Ukraine bought us some time by defending against Russia so successfully and by obviously deterring Russian any attacks on NATO countries. But again, we're on borrowed time. We cannot spend it more on, you know, internal deliberations on whether we should do this or that. Again, we have a clear plan and we have to now fulfill it. And President Trump played a major role in this. And we have to recognize the fact that without President Trump, Spain, you've mentioned maybe Italy and maybe some other countries.
Belgium's also shown some reluctance.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe they wouldn't be at 2% this year. I have my doubts whether that would be the case without an additional push from the US, which was also the case with President Biden and President Trump during his first term and President Bush and others. But maybe this kind of environment and the rhetoric coming from President Trump made it more, you know, realistic at this moment of time.
And Rachel,